Hello, Brian. Welcome aboard. Tuck, welcome aboard on the Instagram side. We are allegedly live on the YouTube side. You can let me know if that's working. Brian, Tuck, aluminum stairs. You must be an awesome welder. Ugly Skull, welcome aboard. Jello, Roger Jello. We sounding good there, Kevin? So, when we last met our heroes, hey, there's Chris. Welcome aboard. We're going to be talking about you indirectly, Chris. Okay, great. We covered up some sunshine on the doors here, which you guys on Instagram just can barely see, but on YouTube it was being a problem. Good afternoon, Carl. Welcome aboard. You had something you wanted to talk about today, Carl, I think. Remind me. Henry, welcome aboard. Carl is playing with both hands. Don't read too much into that. Thank you very much for my shirt comment. This is the red. You thought it was the forehead. There's a lot happening here, okay? Sometimes thermal emissions. Oh yeah, you're standing by. Well, honestly, you may be seated. It'll be more comfortable that way. Hey, watch this. Just joined us. Thank you, Kevin. You are no longer standing by. You are here. It's the PFG Live. And it's Sunday. And we're in New Hampshire. And it is a gorgeous day out. I don't know why I'm here standing in the shop when I could be out there, but I am. Hey, Restless Studio. Welcome aboard. I'm going to be talking about you today indirectly, unless you want me to talk directly. Okay, Henry. Yeah, no, I get it. We'll catch you on the replay. But nice to see everybody. So it's a absolutely stunningly gorgeous weekend here in New Hampshire. Yesterday was beautiful. Today's beautiful. I had both doors open, but I closed them so that we could record today. And they're going back open as soon as we're done. Okay, man. Hey, thanks again. Hey, if you guys don't know Restless Studio, throw him a follow on the Instagram. He's a good dude. Yes. Oh, that's what it is, Carl. Yeah. No, Carl. You will get a lot of value out of today's discussion. The A2 handles for PFG stones. That's not what they are. They're not handles. Tennessee is raining. Well, sometimes you need the rain. We finally, I don't know if we quite got caught up from drought conditions, but we had drought conditions, and it was pretty dry around here. So far, we're safe from art students. Bob Labs, welcome aboard, sir. I don't know what's going to happen today with respect to art students. We'll see what happens. Yeah. So maybe you need the rain, you know. Mr. Mueller, welcome aboard. I like your .92 spelled out. That's outstanding. So we have some fun things to talk about today. Keeping it light, nothing crazy, but you know, how you start is not how you end up. Isn't that true? So we will get into it. We'll give it another minute or two for everybody to file into the cantina here. I want to publicly thank Grimsmo Knives for giving me a little bit of feedback on heat treating. There's one more prop I have to get. Hey, by the way, I don't know if you knew this, Restless, but my dad was born in Toronto. So there's a little connection there. Let me grab something. I'll be right back. I was actually like making stones this morning because my customers have the temerity to order stones every week. So I had to make minis. Half Canadian, eh? Beauty. That's outstanding. Or should I say, only half? Oh, sorry. Anyway, nice part of the world. So today we're going to be talking about a couple of interesting things. We're going to be getting into some heat treating stuff that I've experienced lately. I'm actually seeking some advice and counsel from the world. So somebody here may be able to give me some advice and help me on that. And we'll talk a little bit about a great story, an awesome story that happened this past couple of weeks. It could have turned into a bad story, but it turned into a good story. So, yeah. Rowan says, the gall to order more stones. How dare they? I know, it's crazy. They give me no rest. But I'll show them because I'm caught up. As soon as I finish the stuff that I started this morning, which it'll be done before dinner, I'm done. I am caught up. The spreadsheet says I can relax, so I'm pretty happy about that. Last week, somebody asked us to get into some details on dealing with direct contact on optical flats when you're measuring laps. I'm going to leave that for the moment because I'm going to try to get Robin in to talk about some of those details because there's some really interesting things in that department. In case you're wondering, no, I have not started lapping my laps. You will hear about it on Instagram as soon as I start that, and I will be making a video about that process. Alexis, welcome aboard. So, so that's the state of the world. Otherwise, the contest. So the contest is rolling along. A bunch more people checked in on the YouTube video this past week and put their guesses for the number of boxes in the bags into the comments. If you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, head on over to pfg.gg/contest and you could learn about that. There's a video on the YouTube channel you need to watch, and then the rules are in the description of that video and also on the pfg.gg/contest page. And you need to guess the number of boxes in the bag with all the information I gave you, and then put it in the comments on that video. That's the only way to enter. And then October 30th, we close the contest, and sometime very shortly thereafter, we will be making a counting video. We'll show you the counting process, and we will declare a winner. Okay? So, don't forget about the contest. So we're going to be talking about A2 tool steel in a bit after I tell you a story. Here's a piece of heat-treated A2. Heat treating was interesting. But first, I have a story for you. So one of my good customers, who I don't believe is with us on the live today, placed an order for stones, and they were 4-inch stones, and also ordered them personalized. So those stones were made, the laser personalization was put on, and it got shipped off to Canada. Hey Bart, welcome aboard. Grismall, welcome aboard. So these stones were shipped off to Canada. Now let me explain how he requested United States Postal Service, USPS shipping, which is the cheapest shipping. So I think the cost of the shipping was about $17. For comparison, the cost of shipping via UPS, the same, hi Paul, and hey Avery, the same box, the flat rate box, actually not the flat rate box, but the same box, the same package, same contents via UPS would have been double, almost exactly double. So who wouldn't choose the one that is a little... Okay, we'll talk about the lips. I'll put it on my list. So off this package went via United States Postal Service. Now, when you ship out of the United States using... This is... You got to stay up... Hang in here with me, okay? You're going to see a little bit of my pain. If you're using United States Postal Service and it's going outside the United States, in my case, I'm using ShipStation, which has a really nice feature. They interface with this company called Global Post. See, when you cross an international border, you have to do customs paperwork and do declarations and valuation and stuff like that. So to make it simple and to make it appear simple, there's a company called Global Post that does all the aggregation and the customs clearing. And with ShipStation, it's super cool. You enter the address, in this case a Canadian address. You say ship to my client, and the shipping label comes out. It actually is going to Hackensack, New Jersey. Hackensack, New Jersey. I can't make this up. And on the bottom, it has your customer's name and address, but in the comments. So it goes off to Hackensack, New Jersey. It clears customs. It gets custom paperwork electronically slapped on it. It gets a new shipping label, and then it goes off to the country, in this case, Canada. And that company that does all that aggregation is called Global Post. The nice thing about it is you don't have to do anything. You don't have to... In UPS shipments, I have to put a pouch onto the shipment and put customs forms in the pouch. It's another step. So it seems like it's a really cool deal. Until your customer, in this case, a guy named Chris, sends you an email and says, "Why did you send me a package of Yu-Gi-Oh cards instead of my PFG stones?" That might have been the weirdest email I've ever gotten. Second weirdest email I've ever gotten. So I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So he sends me a picture of this bubble wrap package, and it's got an address label on it with my... Hey, New Zealand, welcome aboard, man. I'm glad to see you here. So my label is on this blue package, and he rips it open, and there, in fact, is a set of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. What are Yu-Gi-Oh cards? They're playing cards for this game called Yu-Gi-Oh. And my brain locks up. I'm like, how the hell did my address, return address, his address, and the customs portion of the label says it's got sharpening stones and it's got stuff and it has this value, and he rips it open. It's this Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And light dawns on Marblehead that somewhere down in Hackensack, New Jersey, I am unsurprised that this happened in New Jersey, the label got switched with something else. And he got somebody's Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and the PFG stones went off to somewhere. Nobody knows where. I believe there's a Yiddish word, which is Jenemsveld, which means somebody else's world. They went to Jenemsveld. So I tell Chris, we will sort this out. And the address of the customer that's on the packing slip with the Yu-Gi-Oh cards is in York, Ontario. Now, my customer is closer to Toronto, so they're about 100 kilometers apart. And they're both in Toronto, in Ontario. I looked at the list of cards, no fooling, And there was one pretty juicy one, because my kiddos are into this stuff. So I put a thing on Instagram, which I've since deleted. I said, "Is there anybody in York, Ontario?" And one of our guys that are here, you could raise your hand if you want. He said, "I'm near York, Ontario." He was in North York. He said, "I'll do it. I'll get a message." So I sent him a PDF file, and I said, "Could you print this and go stick it in this guy's mailbox?" Because I had no email address, no phone number. I just had a physical address. There he is. Restless Studio is our man. And he says, "I'll go put the note in the mailbox." So he prints out the note that I sent him, which had a picture and it had an explanation and it had a thing that said, "I am not a Nigerian prince. I'm a real person, and this is what's going on." So 24 hours go by, or almost 24 hours, and nothing's happening. And I'm like, this is not going to work. When all of a sudden I get a text message from Zeke. And Zeke says to me in the text message, "Hey, I'm the guy." So I said, "Oh my God, what's your email address?" So he gives me his email address. So we send out this group email to everybody involved. We're up to 4 people now. And we explained the whole thing. And he says, "I didn't get a box with stones in it." And now I'm like, uh-oh. So my mental picture of these things getting switched was completely incorrect. My label got on the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and the Yu-Gi-Oh cards label did not go on the stones. Something else went on the stones. We don't know what. So at this point, we said, let's give it a day. We gave it a day. The stones have not shown up. And now we're like, okay. And I told my customer, Chris, I said, "Chris, if on Tuesday those things don't show up, I will send you a new set of stones, UPS, not USPS, and they will go out." So that's the way it was. And I was sort of like bummed. And I filed a claim with Global Post. And I'm getting ready to get on, this morning I wake up. I put on my new red shirt, available on the Kinetic Precision website. And guess what? I get an email from Chris who says, "Stop the presses. I got my stones." I'm like, what? So he got his stones delivered this morning, or yesterday actually. Hey Brian, welcome aboard. And so the stones arrived. Chris is taking care of getting the cards out back to Zeke, and Restless Studio can sit back and have a cold one on me for having delivered the snail mail into the mailbox, and everything is okay now. So here's the thing. The stones were reported delivered by the United States Postal Service on the 11th. Yesterday was the 15th. So my theory is that a yet additional party that we don't know who it is got the stones and said, what the hell is this? Took it to the post office. They said, "Don't worry, we'll take care of it," and shot it off to Chris, and without comment, and they arrived. So thank you everybody for sorting this out. And Zeke, who is not a machinist, doesn't know what PFG stones are, he just wants to play Yu-Gi-Oh, was an awesome dude, and everybody's happy. So Restless Studio, I owe you one. You let me know what I could do for you, okay? So that was the USPS story. So I don't know if I'm going to do this. Yeah, man. Thank you. I don't know if I'm going to do this, but I'm almost ready to recommend that Canada just use UPS. I probably will put a comment on the site that says it's a little extra money. How much extra did the flat rate box cost to go to Canada via ShipStation? It was $17 shipping to Canada via USPS flat rate through my system. There's probably $3 in there that's reserved for shipping and handling. Restless, you're cool, man. I'll pay it forward. So don't forget there's two FedExes. There's FedEx Express and there's FedEx Ground. And I was joking the other day with one of my delivery guys, and I said the best delivery service on the planet is FedEx Express. The worst delivery service on the planet is FedEx Ground. And that's true. So it was like $17 versus $33 for UPS. And I might be able to sharpen the pencil. Bob Labs, if Instagram is locked up, I don't know. I can't do anything about it. It's out of my hands. Kevin says, I haven't sent anything with them, but I've received international shipments via DHL. Great experiences. Good for you, because I've had some really weird experiences with DHL, and they are not on my list. So if you woke me up in the middle of the night and you said, you have to ship something, how are you going to ship it? I'd say UPS. Or if it's something really expensive, really critical, FedEx Express. All right? That's how I would do it. All right. That's the story about the United States Postal Service and shipping stones to Canada and my good friends to the north and good people. The story is about good people helping out. And if we waited for the companies to help out, we'd still be waiting. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Let me address Bob Lab's question about lips. So we will put a lip on a stone so that on the end, there's a little lip right there. Okay? And that's on the website. It's an additional process step, and you pay a few more shekels, and you can get that. If you ever looked at an angle plate, okay, and there's a relief groove cut in the corner so that you don't have a sharp corner, which of course there's no such thing in the world as a sharp corner, the lip lets you get the whole surface. So the stone actually extends into the relief groove when you stone, okay? If that's important to you, then it's worth having a lip, so that you can stone this surface right to the edge and extending a little over the edge of the relief groove in a, for example, angle plate. Okay? This is not it is not a mystery where this came from. This came from Robin Renzetti, and we offer it as an option. So the upside is you can stone a surface that goes into an angle with a relief groove. The downside of it is that it's fragile. So this lip here is that little square, okay, is 30 thousandths by 30 thousandths, right? So it's 30 thousandths thick and 30 thousandths high. And it's a little fragile. I think I have it on my stones here. Yeah. Yes, no, no. Yes, no, no, wrong set. I have a set that does have them. I think maybe it's this one. Nope, not that one. I thought I had one handy. Anyway, what happens is if they get a little bit abused, you can chip that lip. You can chip the lip. So you have to be a little careful. Otherwise, it performs a useful service. Just like a bevel on a stone is a tool, right? We'll put a bevel on the stone, and that's for the guys that are doing dovetails. That they're doing a surface under a dovetail, or they're doing the dovetail itself, right? The bottom of the dovetail to get in there. Again, it has pluses and minuses. The minuses is it's an additional process step. The pluses is you can get into something funky. Okay, this one, the reason this is mine is because it's chipped, and that was because my machine operator screwed up. Okay, did I answer your question about the lips? Does anybody else have a lip question? I'm not judging. All right. Indiana John, welcome aboard, sir. John Hopper, welcome aboard. Z.A. Gross, welcome aboard. I don't know if I'm supposed to. You did something similar for printing dovetails and boxways for scraping. Oh! Oh, neat. Yeah. Cool. Excellent. When you say printing, you mean like you did a straight edge that had a similar structure on it? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense if you did. I'm waiting for your response because of lag. But anyway, I took a 2x4 and cut it at the angle I wanted, then stretched and stapled a goatskin globe over it to hold the die. Oh, so you made a die, you made a spotting die application tool that had a similar shape. Got it. Awesome. You guys are such good craftsmen. I love hanging around you. Not globe, glove. Okay. You could just buy the whole goat, you know. You don't have to just buy the glove. All right. So that was the long answer to the lips question. After we're done with the live, if you're curious, head over to the site. You'll see it's offered as an option. And it takes. What I do is after I grind the stones, the customers' stones that come in for the lips come back, fresh setup, and I do the lips. So it doesn't happen too often. Okay. If you guys have any questions, why don't you ask them? And if maybe okay, Restless, take care. Hey, thanks again. You get a standing ovation, and I promise to pay your kindness forward. Hey, watch this. Says that trick came from a 40-year-plus master machine tool scraper. Outstanding. And made from a 2x4, which makes it even better. Okay, so I'm going to get into this, my recent experience, and I'm actually, I'm going to tell you what I did. I'm seeking some advice and counsel. Paul Morley reports, early Christmas present arrived. Char's single lip cutter grinder. Head spinning trying to figure out angles and relief. I know. So don't forget, I put a couple of copies of the Deckel grinder, the SO grinder, which is a single lip cutter grinder, on the links page of my website. Link in bio, you'll find it. All right, hey, watch this. Rowan, take care. Thanks for stopping by. So, all right. The story is I got a request from a very good friend of mine who I used to play bass with back in the 80s. And he needed a gauge made. Okay? So, Indiana John just picked up a Gorton single lip grinder, single lip cutter. Neat. So how many of us carry around a 6-inch scale rule? You could all jump on my case for what I call it, in your pocket, right? This is like a very common tool. Imagine a 6-inch thing that's thicker, okay, and has a bevel on it, and it has a special job as a gauge, okay? That's what I'm making. So in preparing my my part up to grinding, this is what I'm starting with. So this is A2 tool steel, which we're going to talk about in a little more detail today because it's kind of neat stuff. If you haven't played with A2, we're going to maybe get some converts. This is greater than 6 inches long. It's greater than an 1/8 inch thick, and it's greater than 1 inch wide. And this is like, okay, that's the shape I want, hardened, so that I could then go into the grinder and finish up this job. And then it gets laser markings on it, of course. So I made up some of these, and then I went ahead and I heat treated them. And I didn't get into a big a deal on Instagram, but I'll show you what I do for heat treating. Okay. I use these pre-made pouches from they're called Vac Pack, and they're made by a company called the Century Company in Foxborough, Massachusetts, just down the road. Okay. And it is a pouch made out of stainless steel, not just any stainless steel, by the way. It's a pouch made of stainless steel, and it's laser welded on 3 sides, and it makes it really easy to drop a part into the pouch. Okay, and then we seal up the end by folding a couple of times and rubbing it and making a nice tight seal, and then it's ready for heat treating. Why do you heat treat in a pouch? Because this tool steel does not want to oxidize, and it will oxidize badly in an oxygen environment as if you brought it up to heat treating temperatures, which in this case is about 1750 Fahrenheit. So I put it in my pouch. I get the pouch prepared into the oven, and then I have a Hot Shot 360 from Bar Z Industrial. You guys on Instagram can't see it. Trust me, I'm pointing at Bar Z's sticker. And you can now get them from American Kiln, part of American Rotary. Hashtag not sponsored, but I like these guys. And I have a program in the controller that will ramp up, hold, ramp up, hold, ramp up, hold, and then sound the alarm and say I'm done. And the timing and temperatures are a topic for another day. But the final hardening temperature is 1750. When the alarm goes off, my job is to take them out and quench them. Now, with A2 tool steel, you quench in air. So here we arrive at the first question. You have this literally red hot part in a red hot, it's actually black hot pouch. What do you do? So some theories are that you cut the pouch open, you take the part out, and you put it on a cooling rack. Okay? Another theory is you take, and that, by the way, that's what I did with some mistakes. The other theory is you take the part in the pouch and you throw it on the cooling rack and wait for it to cool off. Yet another theory is that you take the part in the pouch and you put it between plates in a press, and you press it until it cools off. Cools off enough. So all of these are possibilities. It turns out that my method was very fussy, and that was take out the part, leave it in the pouch until the redness goes away, until it's not red hot, and then cut the pouch open, take out the parts, put them on the cooling rack, and let them cool. I wish I had video or pictures of this. I don't. It was a disaster. So this is what the parts look like, okay? And when I put them in the pouch, and they were sort of in a pile that was of no particular description. And those of you who do a lot of heat treating are already saying, I see where this is going. And when I pulled it out, they were all stuck together in this really random configuration, just like this. And I wouldn't say I panicked, but I saw the clock ticking, and I'm trying to get these things apart from each other. And I basically bent them in the process of getting them unstuck from each other. So my yield on these 5 bars is 2. I have 2 bars that are pretty much like I wanted them to come out, and 3 bars that got damaged. Okay, they got a little damaged in the process of getting them unstuck and disconnected. Now, here's the good news. The good news is hey, Proteum, welcome aboard, man. The good news is that the heat treating came out really nice. A couple of tests on the hardness tester show that it came out at Rockwell. Focus. Rockwell C59. The target for our hardening was 59. So it was, from a heat treating point of view, it came out perfect. From a management of the bars point, even these, you see, even these have a little bend to them. You can't quite see it, but these are the best. So, oh, I'm sorry, that one of those was the bad one. Here's the good one. All right, so the good ones are basically flat. And they're oversized for a reason, that when I go to grind them, I can grind some of that out. So Chris asks, can you throw them back in the oven and unpotato chip them? That's a super good question. The answer is, I think so, but I'm not sure. So if I went with the press idea, where you take it out red hot, put it in the press, and press it between the aluminum plates, possibly. Am I going to do that? Not yet. Yeah, no, A2, the boric acid trick. So Keith Rucker treated a viewer's project in his Hotshot 360, buried in a vessel filled with boric acid powder. I had only seen that done with boric acid / denatured alcohol slurry on Click Spring. We watch the same channels. Any idea which is better? No. I don't believe that was A2, first of all. I believe that was an oil quenching steel. And boric acid serves to prevent decarbonization of that steel. So what happens is, for example, like an O1 tool steel, which is like, baby's first tool steel. If you heat treat that in an oven in an oxygen environment, the carbon in the surface will get ripped out. Yeah, we'll talk about that, Indiana John. I'm very familiar with this. So this is A2. This is an air hardening steel. You could make the argument that it is differently but more reactive with the oxygen. So you really have to take special steps. Thus, the foil. Now, remember before I said that the foil protects it, and we'll talk more about what stainless steel this is. This is not, hey, unconformable coatings, welcome aboard. This is not, Brian says, always had to tell my heat treater, rack for flatness. Yeah, I'm starting to learn my way around this. For these little batches, I'm not going to send it out. I'm going to do it here. But if I get to stuff where I have a lot, I'm sending it out. But for the little stuff, I could do it here. So if we look at this stainless steel, by the way, this stainless steel will completely rip your hands to ribbons. So there's nothing magic inside of this pouch. Okay, it's not, there's no coatings or anything in there. But the magic of this stainless steel is that it wants to react with the oxygen more than your A2 wants to react with the oxygen. So when you stick it in the pouch and you close it up and you say to yourself, yeah, there's still some air in here, and some people will purge with argon. Great idea. I didn't bother, even though I have argon sitting there. So the stainless steel pouch scavenges the oxygen as the temperature goes up, and that's what locks up the oxygen. Is it perfect? No. And you know it's not perfect because there's a little color on this guy, right? And this is how it looks going in. So it is not a perfect process, but it really does work. Let me grab a piece of the pouch that I threw out. Hold on. I'm back. So here's the pouch. This is the outside of the pouch. So when you pull it out of the oven, it looks like that. Okay? This is what it looks like going into the oven. This is what it looks like coming out of the oven. So you could tell immediately that this had some serious reaction going on with the oxygen. Now here's the inside. Ready? It's not bad. Okay? So it discolored a little bit on the inside. And this is like a gunmetal gray. Oh, I'll talk about that, Paul. Stand by. All right. So that's what happened on the inside of the pouch. So I will make the argument that it did its job. Okay. It reacted with the oxygen and then stopped when the oxygen was all used up. And on the outside, it kept on going. So that's the story with the pouches. They are actually an active, it's an active part of the process. It's not a passive part of the process. It's not just keep the oxygen out. It's intentionally react with the oxygen. Isn't that cool? So that's what the pouch does for you. The boric acid trick is appropriate for other steels, but not for this. Okay, so out comes the parts, and they look they have a little color on them. Don't care. Now, probably one of the guys that knows this process really super well, maybe the best of anybody I know, is John Grimsmo, who's making knife blades that look a lot like this. Okay, he's not using A2 tool steel; he's using a different steel. But he's fighting the good fight. So one of the things I did not do... Oh, you asked about the... Oh, we want to talk about that. Let me talk about the paper in the pouch trick. I did a whole experiment. In fact, I posted all this to Instagram of batches of heat treatment with a pouch with nothing but the parts, a pouch with a small amount of paper, a pouch with a couple of match heads, which was some other folklore that I heard. Actually, I heard that from Stan Zinkowski. And I did an experiment, and they all had pluses and minuses. My bottom line conclusion from that experiment, pouch, nothing in it, was the best. Okay? The so-called, the match heads that were there to scavenge oxygen, they actually left their own marks, their own coloring. The paper, it ballooned up the pouch. We don't need that. And the pouch worked really well. So my conclusion from that is use a good pouch made for purpose, or good, sometimes people make their own pouch from a roll of material, but the whole, the wives' tales about putting a little piece of paper in there and all that stuff. I don't deny anybody their special spices in the recipe, but it's not in my recipe anymore, and I did experiment with it. The other thing, Indiana John says, you're probably familiar with this, but I might as well mention it. If you go to surface ground warped parts, you've got to be very careful to shim the part so that the mag chuck doesn't pull the warp out. Yes, there's a whole art to taking a part that is got some warp in it and grinding the warp out. I went through this with some thin parts, again, a couple of years ago. Actually, it was on my first... Yeah, I can't remember. Anyways, it was a few years ago. Same form factor parts. And I tried a couple of different methods. One of the methods that worked really well was I put 3 little dots of green tape. All right, so this is the tape that John Saunders made famous for his super glue and tape trick. For you guys on YouTube, McMaster car number. You got it? For you guys on Instagram, I'll read it to you. 7630A23. Okay, so Carl says, remember that the number of, and I'll help translate if I can. Remember that the number of moles of gas in the pouch is related to the residual volume. Compared to the solid metal, the oxygen is a needle in a haystack. The proof is the condition of the inside of the pouch. Thank you. So, back to grinding out a warp. So I took this material, which, by the way, is 3.5 mils thick, measured, and I put 3 little dots on my part, and I put it on the grinder, and I ground it, and then I flipped it, and I ground it, and it came out beautifully. So it was a 3-point method. The other thing that works, and I think somebody brought this up, let me just see if that's true. I thought somebody brought it up, is that if you put a paper towel down on the table and you soak it with coolant and you put your warped part on the magnet on the paper towel, it will also tend to not pull the warp out. The paper towel soaked with the coolant tends to use up the volume enough to prevent that from happening. All of those are true. And I don't want to get into a dissertation on how to grind out the warp, but except to say that, yes, you have some special dances you have to do to take a part that's a potato chip and hold it. Now here's the problem. Here's the fail mode. The fail mode is you take out a seriously warped part. Okay, we don't need any special effects to see how badly warped this. I mean, this is a real potato chip. Okay. If you put this on a magnetic chuck on a grinder and you turn on your magnet full, it will suck it down flat. Then you grind, and then what happens when you turn the magnet off? It goes right back. Or worse, okay? So the whole technique we're talking about is to say, I like, this material is in its, whatever its state is. I don't want to put any more stress into it. I'm going to grind it flat, flip it over, grind it flat, maybe do that one more time, and I haven't changed, I haven't put any stress in it. Okay? So there's a whole bunch of tricks to do there too, and my conclusion was you need all the tricks. If you have something that that isn't flimsy, and when you turn the magnet on, you're not going to bend it like a block. Let's say you had a block that had a side that was wavy, okay? You have to do something to establish that block's stability on the chuck. That could be hitting it on a lapping plate. That could be doing the 3-point trick, which I'm a fan of. Whatever you have to do. That thing you put down, you could turn the magnet up and go to town. You're not going to bend it. But you have to do something. Okay? So here comes the next. So that's my story about making potato chips. Okay? 2 out of the 5 are acceptable to go to the next step of the process. So what did I do today? This morning I cut 5 more, and I'm going to do another batch of 5 blanks. My question is, and by the way, the blanks are excellent. Very nice and flat. California Tool Steel Supply, I think is the name of the company that I buy it from. So I had watched all of John Grimsmo's old stuff before, and I knew that he put talcum powder in the pouch with his knife blades that are going into heat treat. And this is on one of his videos. So I did a little research, and I found that is a common thing, and that you have to make sure you're actually using talc and not cornstarch, or else it's ugly. Carl, it depends. The answer is it depends. The other problem with sorry, we're jumping back and forth, but Carl brings up a question. He says, isn't the force of the magnet huge compared to the stiffness of the part? Well, it depends. If I have a big block, then the magnet is, also my magnet, I could reach over to it and turn it and adjust the force. So if you have an adjustable magnet, or if you have a lever magnet and you just crack it a little bit, you could put in just a little bit of magnetic force into the part. And that's another trick that you do. Okay. So the talc trick to keep the parts from sticking in heat treat, or to keep the pouch from sticking to the parts in heat treat. I came up with an idea, and I haven't tested it yet, and I'm hoping that one of you guys does a bunch of heat treating and might have some ideas as to whether I'm a lunatic or not. Instead of talc, I have a bunch of 5-micron aluminum oxide lapping material. So this is aluminum oxide in a powder, and that powder, the powder particles are 5 micron. And if I look at it and play with it, it's like, if you told me this was talcum powder, I would believe you. Why don't I just use this as a little sprinkle of spice in my pouch to keep my stuff from sticking? Would that work? Because we know it's hard, we know it's high temperature, because it's aluminum oxide. So I'm going to do an experiment and put a little spice, unless somebody tells me why this is a lousy idea. I'm going to use aluminum oxide 5 micron as my talc inside of my pouch with my parts. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, thank you, Indiana John. Yeah, it sounds interesting, doesn't it? Yes, the tiny plastic table in the middle of a pizza box. How many legs does it have? 3. Brian says, less parts per pouch? Yes, less parts per pouch is a very good idea. So I looked for those. The knife makers have these little ceramic things with pegs in them, and they put their knife blades in, and the pegs hold the knife blades vertical. That's another thing I'm looking at, is take Brian's idea, less parts per pouch, right, and then put them in so they sit like this. I've been thinking about that. Another idea I heard was reference to people taking thin parts and bolting them together. Now, I don't have any holes to bolt them together, but what if I took my thin parts, made them like this, and then wired them together with a high temperature safety wire, like a I forget what it's called, but anyway, there is a wire which is meant for high temperatures, and just wire these parts together like this. What about that idea? So yeah, fewer parts per pouch, putting them vertically. Then the other thing I was reading about was, and this was in I don't have it here, but this was in the literature from the guys that make Vac-Pack. Okay, sometimes it helps to read these instructions. They encouraged you to leave the part in the pouch for quenching. Carl, that's another idea I was thinking of also, but I'm not sure. So Carl says, how about interleaving the thin parts with stainless steel foil? I thought about that, but I couldn't come up with that might be an anti-stick thing, but it's not going to be a flatness thing. So I want these things to come out flat, and also I don't want them sticking to each other. So Vac-Pack says quench your part in the pack. So if we do what Brian says, and I put maybe, how many can I fit in here? I think I could fit 3, side by side, and then leave them in the pouch and put them on the quenching rack for quenching. That might be a way to go. DSIM says just take into account that the sides will tend to warp more than the middle ones in the wire rack. Yeah, it's a challenge. Actually, Carl, I have a roll of foil. It's old, but it's the right stuff, and I have plenty of it, so I don't have to take these pouches. You know, you pay for them, so I don't like to cut them up if I don't have to. I just ordered 25 more of this size. It's a nice size for the oven. 6C Tools, welcome aboard. So anyway, I'm formulating a plan for the next experiment, and we'll see what happens. But as far as the heat treating itself, doing what the book says. Hey, K-Bonk. Doing what the book says gave us exactly the numbers that the book said we'd get, and that was pretty stinking nice. So yeah, I'm gonna try the aluminum oxide. I was racking on well, here's a good question. I was racking on a homemade hardware cloth covered roast rack of no particular flatness and of no particular breeding. So it didn't help. But the thing that was most responsible for the warp was trying to get the parts apart while hot. Do you know the melting point of aluminum oxide? I know that when it's on my grinder and the metal is red hot, the aluminum oxide grinding wheel doesn't care. What do you mean by racking? That's a good question. When you pull the parts out and put them down, you're putting them down on a rack. How are they set up in the furnace? So I had them in the pouch flat on the bottom of the furnace. That's a good question. So what I've been reading is it is preferable to put them on, edge down in the furnace and do the same thing when they cool. So the takeaway so far, one of the big takeaways is you have to put a lot of thought into the end game before you start the heat treat. And I didn't do that the first time around. And this isn't my first rodeo with heat treating. It's just my first time dealing with parts that are shaped like that. 6 inches long, 1/8 inch thick. Anyway, if anybody has any cool ideas that we haven't talked about, feel free to message me. And I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to fire off the next round, but it's going to involve... Yeah, Carl says the melting point of aluminum oxide is greater than 2000 C. Is the oven preheated? This is K-Bonk. Is the oven preheated so bottom is at a stable temperature? Yes. Believe it or not, my total heat treating curve is about 5 hours. So it goes up to about 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. It soaks. It goes up to 14, I don't remember, 1450-ish. It soaks. And then it goes up to the heat treating temperature of 1750. And those last two are in the books. The first one at 1200 is purely a stabilizing thing. I got that recipe from Stan Zinkowski, and it works awesomely well. Indiana John says, definitely preferable to have them on edge in the kiln. Yeah, so I'm working on that. If anybody knows, I found a couple places that have those knife racks, but they're really sparse. It's like a little block with like 8 pins, and that's it. It would be kind of cool to have more choices. Anyway, so stay tuned. We'll see what happens. Meanwhile, if I can get the grinder clear of stones today, I may start grinding on these guys and see how they come out. Or I may, just to warm things up, I may take one of these warped guys and play with it. Well, what's the size of your pieces and how many do you need to heat simultaneously? The pieces are 6 inches long by 1 inch wide by 1/8 of an inch thick, and I need to heat, let's say, 5 at a time. This is not a big production. I saw some fire brick things that looked like gear teeth, rack teeth, but they're sold out. Yep, fire brick. I have a piece of fire. I have a brick, so I can cut up a brick. Chris says take a fire brick, cut slots in it, easy peasy. Yep, possible. Also, these pouches are 4 inches wide. I've got about 6 inches on the oven. I wouldn't go over 5.5. So I know how much I have to play with. I've not cut these fire brick materials. And just in time, Indiana John says cutting fire brick is a pain in the butt. So if you have any instructions for me, let me know. I might do it by hand just to keep all the schmutz out of the machines. Hey, BML. Welcome aboard. Speaking of which, I still have not made any further progress on the titanium salami project. I want to buy the appropriate cutoff tool for the lathe, so I just haven't nailed it down yet. With that, we are at the top of the hour, and I want to respect y'all's time. And thanks for joining, and thanks for giving me some input. Hope you had a good time. One of the best data sheets on tool steels I found was over at Carpenter Technology Corporation, which is basically you hear it called Carpenter Steel, and they have an excellent data sheet on A2, and one of the best ones I found online. So if you're curious, go take a look at it. Still no rush, thank you, sir. And you can learn a little bit about the tool steel. But it's really nice stuff. I really enjoy it. I do use it for tooling in the shop. Yeah, I don't know much about fire brick. Let me show you what I've got. So this is what I have. And this has been kicking around for a few years because I was going to do something else with it. And I think I bought it. I think I bought it from McMaster Carr. So I don't exactly know what I'm going to do with it. All right, Carl. How about a ceramic honeycomb soldering board with pins in the holes as needed? That's a great idea. I've never seen such a thing. Could you send me a link? It's not that light. It's not super lightweight. Yeah, McMaster will have the raw materials. Also try magnesium oxide, a great refractory. I've never played with magnesium oxide. Elishewitz Knives, welcome aboard, sir. You're looking for the prize today, aren't you? Of the last guy to show up before we shut down. Yeah, pragmatic. That's what I was going to do. I was going to cut it with a handsaw because I don't think I want that stuff in any of my power tools. Yeah, bands. Yeah. Refractory brick. Hey, listen, I'm just glad you're here, okay? It's all right. This isn't... Nobody gets marked late. Except for Chris. Oh. Mercor, I can't even pronounce your name. We're going to call you Merc. Welcome aboard, sir. And you may now get the prize for the last guy in before we pull the plug. So next week, I really have to check the calendar for you guys because I have some stuff coming up that might hose me. Let me just double check. No, I'll be here next Sunday. So we'll have a live next Sunday, and the Sunday after that is the end of the contest. And I also will be around, and then I think it gets a little crazy after that. But we're good for next week. So you can expect next week to go on as planned. If you have any ideas for topics you want to cover, please send them along on direct message, and we'll try to accommodate. What contest? You're yanking my chain, aren't you? The contest is at pfg.gg/contest, or links in the bio if you're an Instagram person. Count the number of boxes in the bag, and whoever's closest wins a set of 6-inch PFG stones, personalized with a lid. Details at pfg.gg/contest. How's that, Indiana John? And if you like the red shirt today, they're on my website. They've been on the website for months. This is the heavyweight, the Gildan t-shirt, which I really like. We also have the lightweight, which is that real fine stuff. Take care, Elishowitz. Hey, and you're in a state park. Have a great time. Enjoy yourself. All right, guys, take care. We're going to shut her down. Have fun, and we'll see you next week. Instagram, here comes the finger. See you guys.